Here at the Independence Reformed Bible Church, we do allow for questions following the service. It's our method of cutting down the roast preacher later, right? Just stand behind the pulpit the whole time. You can rip the guy later over Sunday dinner. It's a little harder when you have a chance to ask a question, right? So who has the first question or comment about what we're talking about here this morning?
I would like to know, what is the process for approaching a parent?
Next question. I hate to sound politically correct here. I hate it. Hate it, hate it, hate it. But in this culture, let me back up a little bit. I want to go back to my days in concrete. Some of you know what I'm talking about. When I was in the concrete business, there was a change going on. And this was a change. This was a change. The change was that back about a generation before, if the rookies, and it really does take about 3 years to become a good concrete truck driver, believe it or not. It takes a while. Anybody can get it from the plant to the site. Anybody can do that. It's those last maybe 100 yards that separates the drivers. And you can tell a good driver from a bad driver. Back in the day, if the bad driver, the rookies made mistakes, they get yelled at. And it wasn't pretty, and it wasn't nice, and it wasn't really a Freudian counseling session. And there was usually some language involved. Not that we support that at all, or condone that. This could be done without language, but you can probably guess what I'm talking about here. What are you doing that for, you? Don't you know that? You should. You. Well, it didn't make everybody feel good, but got the job done and saved lives. That's my point, saved lives. Now, as we move on, we don't talk to each other anymore. In fact, we might not even say anything. You might see somebody else doing something completely wrong and dangerous. But we don't say anything because, well, that would make somebody feel bad. So we have danger, but at least we all feel good about it. I would respond by saying the process of going to speak to somebody else is more involved in the hearer than it is in the speaker. Yes, we must be gracious, but we must recognize, I must recognize that I just don't know all there is to know about being a grandfather. If someone wants to talk to me, I hope that I will recognize that even if this person is not correct in what they're saying, they just might be. And I owe them a hearing. So I would have to say, this process of speaking to someone else, the greater responsibility is in the hearer. I know that's politically incorrect, but that's the way it has to happen. Responsibility is with the hearer. I saw another question. Okay, great.
I just want to respond to that because I've seen these two in action, and I can tell you what they did.
Stop.
This was years ago. With John and me, they've just been counselors. They've just spoken the truth into our lives, and I don't ever remember any big conversation, but I observed one night a mother who had brought her children. I don't even remember why we were all in the sanctuary in a first church that we were. And Audrey very quietly and personally went up to the mom and put her hand on her back and said, "Would you like some help with this?" And the kid was, just totally out of control. And in that moment, she was like, "Yes." And so she just gave her, here's what I would do if it was me, and I don't even know what you told her because I wasn't anywhere around. And then they attempted then couple to couple with this couple, and I think that only lasted once or twice, and the other couple was really not that interested in a long-term teaching situation, or even a short-term teaching situation. But it was a very kind, quiet, do you want help with this? And in that instance, they said yes, so they proceeded. So at the time, I remember thinking it was very gracious. It wasn't allowed, take your brat out of our congregation. You know, it was a very quiet, personal thing. So I don't know if that helps.
Thank you. No more stories, I'll turn bad.
Thank you. I just love what you read to the parents. That was beautiful. Could I somehow get a copy of that?
Yeah, I'm sure I can. Get it.
That was so Cameron could get a little exercise. I just wanted to make a quick comment, Joel. In many years of attending church, Tim and I have said that we've never really heard a sermon directed to fathers meeting and to the importance of families being in the Word daily. And one of the things that about 4 or 5 years ago, God woke our family up to the fact that we were homeschooling and a lot of other things that were good, but Tim was not leading spiritually on a day-by-day basis. And probably the best thing that's ever happened to our family is those 4 or 5 years ago when God woke Tim up to his responsibility. And every morning at 7 a.m. we're around God's Word as a family. It's the most important and precious time. And I've shared this to other people, but all my years of homeschooling our children, and we were in the Word, we were memorizing the Word, we were reading the Word, the gains that our children made spiritually in 1 year, because Daddy took it seriously, far surpassed the 15 years that I poured in and day out. So dads, if you're not in the Word, Joel has shared it, I'm sharing it as a mom, be in the Word with your family every day. Whether you have a baby, whether you have a toddler, whether you have a teenager, it's never too late to start.
Thank you. I want to address that real briefly on 2 points. First of all, there's a homeschool wave going in Christian circles. That's not a bad thing, but what I've seen is this, is that if dad's not involved, if dad's doing to the wife, you know, to his wife, hey, you know what, if you want to do this, this is your decision, go ahead and give it a try. Don't even begin. It will fail. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and next week, both John and I will be sharing our testimonies in the main service here. And I'm going to have an awful lot to say about my own father. My own father who read the Bible to us every day. And I have a lot to say about that because of the things that he taught me. He taught me. My mom taught me too, yes. But you know what? You know what, dads? This is just the way it is. I don't understand this. A quick example. You know what? If an 8-year-old boy says, you know, my mom made me wear this jacket, the other boys say, oh, your mom, right? If he says, my dad made me wear the jacket, can't be questioned. This is the way it is. And your children will not take any belief in religion. I'm using that in the Christian sense. They will not take any belief that you have seriously unless you have it. If their mom has it and you don't, they will not take it seriously. That's the way it is. I didn't invent it. I'm just identifying it. That's the way it is. Who else has a question? Start.
This morning, an observation that I saw that really touched my heart. We had families up here, fathers and mothers and children. There was one lady that stood alone. That touched my heart. I hope you noticed that she was really in tears. I was challenged incredibly to make that lady in her faith. But I had no intention of faking that.
Thank you. Well said. Big responsibility. A lot more we can say about that. A lot.
To your point about the dads and the importance that it places, that it holds with their children. In the passages that we read from this morning about Samuel, Eli was a horrible example, although Eli brought up Samuel. Eli's sons were both killed by the Lord because they fell away and they were fasting. And as great prophet and priest Samuel was, his children, his sons, followed in Eli's sons' footsteps because Samuel saw how Eli raised his sons. So I mean, it's, you talk about patterns and the importance of the father and the father's example. We have it in what you taught from today.
Yeah, you could say that Samuel's sons didn't have the wrong father. They kind of had the wrong grandfather, if you will, Eli. Big deal for grandfathers. Just a quick word about my own father. My mother, when she passed on, her mind was good, but her body just fell apart. My dad was the opposite. His body was still good, but his mind was just leaving him. And he couldn't remember his children's names. You know, or what order, if he could, he couldn't remember what order they were in. He was just falling apart, but he was actually reading an article. We figured this out later. The day before he died, he was reading an article from a questionable source focused on the family. There's worse. It was a good article, as I recall, actually, because I read it myself. It was an article about passing on the faith to the next generation. And so there was my father, almost dead, still running. That should be us, grandparents. I want to thank you for your kind attention here this morning.